Hello and welcome to another edition of the Portia Raw and Real podcast. So good to have you back. This is sort of the conversation after the conversations that we have on the Portia Show. It is your daily dose of positivity, except in podcast form. It's the conversation where we get to do a little bit of a deeper dive. Some of the stories that we did not get to tell in the 30-minute show, we talk about here. And we really like to plug into those guests who had so many incredible lessons that we can all learn from. And that was surely the case with the episode about beating the odds with Dr. Atiya Douglas and Parson, with Dr. Atiya Parsons and her husband, Doug. How are you?
We are
Beautiful.
well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. That was such a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
And I think people should know, I mean, you are life partners and business partners.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And partners in beating the odds.
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Right. So I think there are a lot of lessons for women and men. And you're really, really plugged into trying to make sure people learn from those lessons, but also teaching the lesson of building generational wealth
Absolutely.
through real estate.
Yeah.
So that's why we couldn't get it all in the show.
That's why we couldn't get
How
it
you expect
all.
us to do that in 20
Exactly.
Hey, we here.
Exactly.
But here we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So listen, I want to, just for folks who didn't get a chance to see the show, let's just talk about what you do for a living briefly.
Okay, so for me, I actually have two careers going on right now. So
Okay.
my first passion was education. So I've been in education for almost 25 years. I did 18 years in the classroom, admin position, and just a plethora of things. And so I always followed my hubby here in real estate. I was his assistant, as he loves to say, for a long time.
Nice.
So finally he was like, you know what, you need to get your license. And I was like, that's not really my passion. So it took a minute. And then finally I was like, okay, are you going to pay for the class? And he's like, of course, I'll pay for it. So I signed up. I did like a 2-week cram course.
Right. Oh, wow.
And so I've been licensed for about 4 years now.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank
you
you
for the work that you do in the classroom,
Thank you.
too.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Thank
Educators and admin just don't get enough of a thank you
Absolutely.
for making
Thank
sure
you.
that our young people are getting
Yes.
what they need.
Yes.
And then just tell me a little bit about yourself, Doug.
Again, my name is Doug Parson. I'm a celebrity realtor here in Georgia.
I like how you say celebrity realtor.
I'm definitely the
What does
celebrity
it mean to be
realtor.
the celebrity realtor
That means
here?
you're
Georgia?
selling to all the celebrities.
All of
So,
them.
I've been blessed enough to work with a ton of celebrities, as well as we teach people how to flip houses, and get their finances together so they can leave their family a legacy. So that's what I'm most passionate about.
And
right now.
I'm asking, drop a few names. To
A
whom
few
have you
names.
sold homes?
I've sold to Coach K of QC. I've sold to T.I. and
Pinky
Pinky
Cole,
Pinky Cole,
Safari,
Safari,
Erica.
Young Jock.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A lot. ATL Jacob.
Gotcha.
He's
Yeah.
real big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's big homes only, or to folks who are finding their way in the real estate market too, trying to find maybe not a starter home, but
Right.
ready to move it
Oh.
up to the next level.
We do starter homes.
We do not discriminate.
That's all.
Because that's what people sometimes want to say. They're like, oh, well, you say celebrity attached to your name. Can you help
Right.
me? And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just something that, we're proud of, that we're able to work with celebrities, because, they can be very picky. And a lot of them
sure.
have actually become our friends.
Yeah.
We've been to their homes, their weddings, and things like that. So
Right.
it's really humbling.
Nice, nice. That's cool. That's cool. So
Yeah,
I want to talk about, because this is now, right?
Right.
And this is, if we're just completely honest, this is I don't want to say ending, but this is the happy chapter.
It
Right,
is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But before this chapter, there were some really rough chapters.
It was
Yes.
some rough chapters.
There was some hustling.
Yes.
There was some dealing.
A lot of dealing.
There was a whole lot going on in the streets.
Yes,
Right.
it was.
Let's take us back to what life was like 25, 30 years ago for Doug, who was
Okay, so Doug was
about
just
that life.
My first love was football. And then it came a time where things that glitter, like jewelry and cars and nice clothes, like it just started. I wanted that stuff at a young age, and it was guys in my neighborhood that had that stuff, and I each end up reaching out to those guys, and
How old were you?
I might have been 15 years old.
When you started?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to use the words you use. I want you to tell your story. What did you start doing at 15?
At 15, the first thing I was doing was selling marijuana.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it started off at. And, you know, it was like that came to a ceiling. Like you couldn't get enough money doing that. So then I had another guy. He introduced me to selling bricks. You know what I mean? So
I know what you mean, but for our listeners, what does that mean?
Bricks? Oh, bricks is actually coke. You know, so that what was going on.
And it refers to the brick of cocaine.
It looks
right?
like
for
a
folks
brick.
who not, because there's some folks who don't know, right?
Right.
It's a very different life.
Right.
So that's when you start making big money, but it is also when things become a lot more dangerous, right? And a lot riskier. The stakes are much higher.
It is much higher, but it's funny. I'm going to rewind real quick. It was funny because when I started selling the coke, it was like the guy actually gave me a beeper at the time. He gave me a scale. He showed me how to do it.
And you were in high school at this point?
Yeah, maybe a freshman, 15, maybe.
Yeah.
My parents,
how did your parents?
you know, it was a lot of cars being bought and a lot of shopping going on. So I can still remember at one point, you know, my parents got with my family and they were supposed to do what do they call
like
it?
An intervention.
I didn't end up going but later on I found out that's what it was. So my family, we real church. They was real. I was brought up in the church, so it was like they was really on me because I was the only one going to the left. Everybody else was going to the right.
So what did they say that 15-year-old Doug did not connect with? And hoping the teachable moment here is, you know, because every parent is trying to make sure their kids are, you know, doing right. But sometimes our kids go to the left.
Direction.
They do.
What did 15-year-old Doug not hear?
I didn't. It's really
Or
what I
it
didn't
just
see.
didn't move?
I didn't see I didn't see nobody that looked like me that was doing doing well financially. So if I would have saw that, you know, as a kid, like, oh, you don't have to sell drugs. You can start a business at 15 and do this, or you can do that. That never was shown to me, you know. So it kind of like I kind of found my way, even though it was the wrong way. But yeah.
And then at some point, I want to bring you into the conversation here, but you didn't know him just yet.
Right.
Tell me how the two of you met and where was he in this life? It was a sweet story on a roller skating.
He was deep in that thing. He was deep in the streets. So we met at the skating rink, and actually I was a roller. He was a watcher. So he was
Anyway.
So he was standing on the side, and I'm, you know, rolling, doing my thing.
Yeah,
you know.
she had on that Guess outfit back in the day.
Yes, absolutely. Hair probably blowing, all that, you know. So his friend actually wanted to talk to me. This is the story that I get later on,
the
right?
True story.
And so I guess he told his friend, "Look, I'm gonna let her roll around a couple more times, and if you don't say anything, I'm gonna holler at her."
Basically.
And he didn't say anything, so you did.
Right.
What'd you say?
To her? I gave her my number and I was like, you know, it'd be great if you can give me a call, you know, go ahead and give me a call. She like, oh yeah, whatever, cool, boom. So anyway, I gave her the number. She left.
And whatever cool boom was, no thank you.
Right. And well, I threw it, not in his face. I threw it away. Probably,
I thought she was gonna
probably
call
as
me.
I was driving down the road, I probably was like, doop, out the window.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
But then a month later, ran into him. But in between that, this
No,
is
okay, stay on
no,
track. A
hold
month
on.
later.
Listen,
Okay.
listen. In between that, come to find out, he said he would see me around town, and by the time he caught up to me at like a light, I was gone.
already gone.
I said, "So you were stalking me for like a month?"
I was pursuing her.
That's called stalking.
You were interested.
I was very.
But you hear smiling, so it was low key.
Right.
He was on
Right,
point.
exactly.
But so what happened? How did you reconnect? If you bloop with the phone number,
Reconnected, like I said, I was in school
work.
at college
You was at
at the
work.
time. I was working one of my 3 jobs I had at the time.
Oh,
Car
gotcha.
wouldn't start. He rolls down, you know, and I'm like, at this point, you know what? Let me just call him, you know. So I called him, and we really started with a friendship. So we were really friends. I really enjoyed hanging with him. You know, you get it. He's extremely silly and funny. So it was that all the time. So it was kind of like it built into something else.
did you? I understand. So I'm wondering, was there? I mean, you're in college. You're academically hustling.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
street hustling.
Right.
Were you concerned?
I was concerned, but I was concerned.
He said what?
I was concerned, but the thing is, where we're from in the city, a lot of girls that look like me attract a lot of hustlers. So he wasn't the first hustler that had tried to talk to me that I had dealt with before. Okay. So for me, it wasn't about, I want this jewelry, I want this purse, this flashy life. It was, can you help me pay for school? Can you buy some books?
That's honest.
Because when I graduated from high school, my mom had moved to the Virgin Islands, so I was pretty much on my own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, paying for college, sustaining myself.
I'm sorry, I just had to pause. How'd you do it?
3 jobs.
That's why you had the 3 jobs.
Okay. 3 jobs. So when I met him, I had 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So did you feel like, oh my gosh, this college girl, she's beautiful, she's hardworking, she just asking me for money for books?
It's crazy. I know one.
Because I know that's not what a lot of women are asking for money for. If we're just going to be candid.
Exactly.
That made her stand out.
It definitely made her stand out. I remember we was going to a comedy show one time, and I had a bankroll in my pocket, so I was like, "Here, go buy yourself something." So I'm expecting her to go off and buy all this stuff, and she come back and she got 1 or 2 things. I think it was a lady suit or something,
and some shoes,
and gave me my bankroll back, and I was like,
"That's
right."
Oh, cool.
I mean, I didn't think he wanted me to spend it all.
I like that though, because you were like, I didn't ask for all of this. I'm going to get what I need, which was a suit.
Right.
That, and again, she's standing out in an amazing way now, right?
I hung with all hustlers, and it was like they would all come to my house because I was like at the top of the totem pole,
right?
And it'd be her. So we all doing whatever we doing, and it'd be her over here up in my room just studying and stuff like that.
And you were comfortable and not judgmental.
Correct.
But did you say, hey, man, this ain't living. You can't keep living like this.
Life was lifing at the time, and it just
was what it was.
Right, and everything, like literally, we had been together for a year when the incident happened in Indianapolis. Maybe a year and a half. The incident happened, and we had to leave, and without hesitation, he was like, "I'm gonna have to leave and change my lifestyle," and I basically was like, "I'm going." Like
for our viewers, because we didn't talk about the incident.
Okay.
Right. How comfortable do you feel talking about, in generic terms, about the incident? What happened?
Basically, the incident was, and honestly, I wasn't supposed to be at this incident at all. So I just decided to ride with somebody I knew, and we pulled up to the place to deliver some drugs, and they actually came out, and they didn't just want those drugs that we had. They wanted more than that. So it turned into a robbery. And even when they took us where they took us to hold us, we had to send. They want us to send them people with money. So if anybody owed us money, like, hey, have such and such bring us this and this, that, and the third. But like me personally, like they was more for him, and they literally had like him in the room and me in the room, and they like, Doug, you ain't even supposed to be here, but you here.
So what was going through your mind? Were you thinking,
but these guys in particular, like, and this is crazy, and this is real and raw, uncut. Those same guys, I saw them murder people. I knew of them murdering people and going to their funerals. So that's the type of stuff that I saw.
Did you think that you were about to
absolutely
die?
I did. And it's funny because I literally had about $10,000 on me that day.
Are you serious?
I had a Cuban, one of my Cuban chains on.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I never gave that up. I put my chain in my pocket, and I just left my money in his back pocket. And it's funny because when they let us go, I still had my money in my chain. But that was the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to kill them, or they're going to kill me, or I'm going to go to prison for 30 or 40 years. So I came home literally that night like, babe, like I'm out of here.
Atiya, when he told you this, what?
Oh, I knew it was serious because his parents came over. His father is now deceased. He's died 20-something years ago, but his parents came over.
Yeah.
They went to another room and had a discussion. When they came out, that's when he said, I'm leaving. So I knew something serious had happened, and he never really told me all the details because he didn't want me to get caught up or questioned or anything.
You were still in school at this point?
Still in school.
So you left college?
Still in school, and when we found out we were moving to Kentucky, I just applied and got accepted at University of Kentucky and kept it rolling. Went to school there and graduated from there.
Wow. Congratulations. There was a fearlessness about you. Was it your faith? I mean, how? Because a lot of sisters would have been, phew, I'm out. I'm not going with you anyway.
Definitely my faith, and I feel like I mean, we had become so close at the time. And like I said, my mom wasn't there. My father is also deceased. He died when I was 18. So like I said, I was like on my own and I had really gotten attached to him. So I just was thinking like, you know, you're not going to leave me. I'm going with you, you know, and we were living together at the time. So I think in my mind, I'm thinking if he leaves, like, where am I going to go?
No. Did you feel like you had to kind of step up, though, in terms of how a man provides a sense of safety for women? Because you're providing all the other things.
Absolutely.
Right? But
absolutely.
Was that an eye-opener at that point? Or?
It definitely was, because it was like, wow, she's going to go to this new state with me. You know, I ain't going to be able to hustle probably no more. I want to change my life, so how am I going to be able to provide for her and different stuff like that, you know? So even though I left with a lot of money, I knew how quick you can run through it. So it was like I just knew I had to get myself together, whatever I may have did.
So you guys moved to Kentucky.
Yeah,
How hard was it to walk away from the hustle? Or did you walk away immediately?
I walked
was
away.
It a clean, cold cut?
Literally, this is a real story. So when you go from Indianapolis to Lexington, Kentucky, you pass through Louisville, Kentucky. It's a big bridge. They've been working on it for years. I had two. I think I had a couple pagers, a couple cell phones, and I literally, like, when we drove through there, I just
tossed them.
I just threw them. You know what I'm saying?
And we left like in the middle of the night. So I'm talking to, it was a U-Haul.
This was life or death.
His dad was driving the U-Haul, and we were just driving in our cars following behind. And we went to his aunt and uncle's house, who lived in Kentucky at the time, and stayed with them for a few months, and then got our own apartment that was like, 525 square feet or something. It was
a
like
very
really
different
small.
life for you.
Man, it was.
Was there any sense of relief, though?
Yes, and I appreciated that life. You know, it's like I just kept the ball rolling. So I got a job at a daycare, and I was still in school, and just keeping it rolling, you know, trying to encourage him, like, you can do this, like, don't go back to that lifestyle. I would call his mom when he would say he was going to go back, you know, and she would call him, and he was upset, like, I'm grown, like, you're calling my mom, but he appreciates it now.
Let's pause there. When you said you were going to go back to that life, what got you there?
What you mean when I said I was?
Yeah, when you said, because Atiya's saying, I'm gonna call your mama.
Oh, no.
What were you saying that had her thinking, we're not doing that again? I'm
thinking about going back to Indianapolis. I'm tired of being broke. You know, I used to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror coming from, you know, I think I bought my first Mercedes when I was 18 or 17 years old. I had my first house when I was 18.
Wow.
Marble walls. This is when they was putting TVs in the wall. And jacuzzi. So I did all that. So, and had Mercedes and Lexus.
At 18.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So boom. So anyway, when I went, of course, I had those things. So even I remember I had a temporary job one time, and I drove like my S500 to the temp job, and they like, what the hell are you, like, you working here? Like, the hell are you doing here?
What are you going on?
Yeah.
So this was a complete change of life.
Yes.
How was that for you in terms of interacting with folks who were giving you, basically, right?
It was tough because
your bosses were people who you'd been making lots more money.
Yeah, they were like, you know, that was the money they making. I get.
And I have to imagine there was a bit of shade because you were like coming up in a Mercedes, in an S-Class.
Yeah, and they thinking like, something ain't right about this guy, you know, but I was trying to change my life. But it was definitely tough to go in there, and at the time that guy might have been making, I don't know, and I'm not talking about people, but he might have been making, I don't know, $10 or $15 an hour or whatnot, and I'm like, you telling me, and getting attitudes, and, you know, and I wasn't used to somebody like that stature telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So that was so humbling.
So what was the lesson for you there? How did you have to make the shift? Was it just, I want to make sure that my wife, and we should say you had kids at this point, right? Like,
did we have Drayson yet?
Not yet.
No,
so 3. So
I had 3. You know, I started having children when I was, how old was I?
The first one, 15.
15, and every 3 years thereafter.
Wow.
So my youngest is 21, 22?
22. Diallo's 22.
Right.
you mentioned 3 sons.
Yes.
You have 2 from the previous relationship.
From the previous.
Right. I should say the 2 of you have 2.
We have 2
together.
Yeah.
But you did lose a son.
I did lose a son.
To gun violence.
To gun violence in the streets.
Tell me more.
His name is Parson. So just real quick, like, he was living he was living in Atlanta. Then he was going to Indianapolis and coming back and forth. At the time, he was just getting ready to have a daughter, my granddaughter, London. And So he was coming back and forth. He was in school and different stuff, and he had just went home to Indianapolis just to kind of get himself together. And so I get a call from his girlfriend at the time, and she's like, Doug, she called me Big Doug. Big Doug, Dejan didn't come home last night. And I'm like, cool. He probably was doing whatever. He'll get with y'all. I was like, call me when y'all figure it out the next day. So anyway, she called me the next day, and she was like, Big Doug, they found Dejan. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh,
he was like, it didn't dawn on me. She was like, yeah, they found him, and I seen something on the news that they was thinking might have been him, and they was like, it was him. And I could still remember like just being confused, like trying to figure it out, but it's nothing to figure out. So I was confused. So I literally just walked out the house, and I probably walked in the subdivision around in circles probably for hours and hours just trying to figure it out. So then a couple of days, I couldn't get down there the same day. So then I went a couple of days later. I went down, got with his girlfriend, and so we went to the place where it happened. Well, it happened to be snowing that week. You know, so when I got there, it was so crazy. I could still see his blood in the snow on the ground, you know. And so it was very...
I'm sorry you have that.
Yeah, it was very...
I have to imagine that's etched in your memory.
Yeah, it is. But
do you know... I mean, he was shot.
Yeah, and the person that did it, they definitely caught them. Yeah, go to trial and all that, you know, and that's kind of how. I mean, I don't think he got enough time, but he got a little time, and it was just like I could just still remember his face, and he came out to the court, and he was smiling, and you know, like I literally wanted to go and strangle him at that point.
What was that like for you? And I'm assuming, you know, for your family, because I wonder, was there part of you when you saw the person, the defendant, and the person who was ultimately convicted, and the other young black men and women going in and out of the court during a trial, right? Was there any part of you that wondered, this could have been me. This could have been me, either unfortunately passing away the way your son did, or on the other side of this?
I was, you know what, honestly, that wasn't even on my mind. What was on my mind was like, I wanted something bad to happen to the guy that did it. That's honestly what was on my mind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Unfortunately.
And I just kept telling him, we just have to pray about this.
Yeah.
You know, I was hurt, but it's a different type of hurt when that's your actual child, you know, with me being the stepmom. But just, I always say I have a lot of empathy in my body. So I was feeling my pain, feeling his pain, feeling other people's pain. And it's just like the gun violence, you know, has to stop. And those feelings have resurfaced because my nephew, my older brother's son, has just been killed. It's been a little over a month ago.
Right.
Oh
And,
my goodness, I'm so sorry.
So
he was only 30. My son was, how old was my
Dejan was 21. So 21. My nephew was 30. Just had his first baby like a couple of days ago. And it's just, it just resurfaced all those feelings all over again.
I imagine. As we just prepare to close here, what is the message that you'd like people to understand, either on any end of this, right? Because you can be in violence and hustling, you can be in violence and in a successful environment.
I just want to say to all the hustlers out here, you know, I used to be a hustler, so I really try to aim at those guys a lot. I just want to ask them to just look at something that they could do legally. Like, definitely look at what we got going on with the flipping houses, because like it's like you're going to end up in prison or you're going to end up dead. Either one. So that's why I push what we doing so hard. And we really do change some of those people's lives. But it's hard because they don't see a lot of people like us doing well. You know, they just don't see it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So,
and to the mothers,
I would say to the mothers, be aware. Don't turn an eye. Ask questions. You know, when you feel something, when you see that your child might be going in the wrong direction, if you can't reach them, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that there's a stigma when it comes to mental health in the African American community, and some of that, when you see children going the wrong way, stems from the mental health.
Something that may have been undiagnosed. Right. So I
think we need to start talking about it, being more transparent, and just showing up or finding someone that can help.
Yeah. Well, you know, we love to end the show on a positive note.
Yes.
And so we love to end the podcast on a positive note.
Yes.
Tell me, what you have learned about your lives, yourselves, at this season where you are now, where you've got sons who are learning from you and people who are learning from you. The word of encouragement for beating the odds.
For me, I always say faith. Faith,
Yeah.
because that's something that I've really had to practice over the last, I would say 10 years, is that when I pray about something, when I ask God for something, I need to hold on to faith, because if I start worrying, and then that means that I'm not trusting
Right,
that God
you're
is
either
going
to pray about it or you're going to worry about
Absolutely.
it. But you're not supposed to do both.
Absolutely.
More than a notion.
That's
as
right.
we all know.
That's right. But it takes practice, because I'm a natural worrier.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I just,
that's what
faith
we
is
do.
my word.
Right.
That quickly.
Just real quick for me, I just want people to just research and look at real estate, because that's the thing that took me from hustling and the murders and the killing and all that and jail time. I just think people need to, at least the people I'm aiming at, please go pick up any book about real estate. Please.
And quickly tell them the name of your book. We nailed it. That's so clever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first one is The Art of Flipping Bricks, which will help that person that wants to flip homes. But before that, to get your relationship in order, you can read Bricks and Blondie. We nailed it. The blueprint to real estate and relationships.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
We appreciate
for
you.
having this conversation.
Thank
The
you.
bigger, the deeper, the really powerful.
Absolutely.
Right.
Beautiful couple.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank
May
you.
God continue to bless both of
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Folks, we thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Portia Raw and Real, the podcast. Be sure to tell your friends to watch Portia Show, and you can listen to the podcast anywhere you can find and download podcasts. All right, we'll see you on TV, and we'll catch you next time on Portia Raw and Real.